Alright, okay. Oh shit. God damn it. Oh wow, we got the bloody... Oh shit. Alright. We got the Sorry guys, you got the creepy music. You got the creepy interim music. Oh god. Oh no, all my cables are doing the thing. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of feedback static coming from the cable. Alright, bear with. Let me Definitely seems to be a little bit more feedback coming than usual. Anyway, hope we're doing good, guys. Hope we're having a good day. How are we all doing? We all good? We all good? Alright, we'll get straight into it then. So I'll just get my smoker on. Let's bring this back out. So yeah, hope you're all doing good, guys. And hope you had a chance a little bit earlier on today. It's very satisfying. Watching a whiskey smoker in action is very satisfying. Hope you had a chance to go and watch the conversation that I had with Josh Fernie, that is the subject of this stream, really. Just hoping to get a few people tuning in to just sort of have a little bit of a chat about some of the things that we talked about, if anybody tuned into it. And I'm just going to see, I don't know, is there a weird feedback coming through? It sounds like in my headphones there's a weird feedback coming through. And I want to hopefully get one of you in here tonight to hopefully pass something on, but we'll get onto that as it comes. But yeah, hope we're all having a good day, guys. Hope we're all having a fantastic day. If you've got anybody in, feel free to say hello. Just came to say hello. And I'll get copyrighted if I keep that up. So we won't keep that up. Yeah, I would imagine some of you would have had a chance to go over and watch now my conversation with Josh Fernie that just came out of the members block. Just came out of the membership area. Yeah, there's definitely something weird going on here. I don't know whether maybe something with these headphones. I'll sort it out in a bit. As long as it's not making things unlistenable for you guys, then that's the main. But I suppose I just wanted to talk about some things, I guess. And get your guys' takeaway, mainly to do with the question that I asked at the end. I think it was really, with large parts of the conversation revolving around Josh's experience being interviewed by the BBC and the kind of tactics that they will spring on people, particularly of right-wing nationalist political views, is obviously the conversation around previous regimes in history. And I think they'll try and use insinuations in that regard to try and unfairly paint people in lights that are at best... Oh, actually, wait there. Okay, yeah, it's still doing the feedback thing, but I just closed the door, so I was wondering if it was doing that. It's at best obviously uncharitable and unsporting, which is obviously to be expected from mainstream media news outlets like the BBC and stuff like that, but also often unfairly. It's not just uncharitable, so to speak, but often done unfairly, to paint people as things which they could not be and demonize people unfairly. And that's why I asked. So the question at the end of the conversation was about should denial of the Holocaust or skepticism of the Holocaust, whether it's due to numbers or whether it's the methods or whatever else, right? Should that then make it so that every little thing else that a person has to say means that it has to be dismissed from a political context? So in the description, you can go find it in the bottom. Should Holocaust skepticism negate a person's entire political philosophy? In particular, Holocaust skepticism, because you see, throughout all other genocides, if you have people that you have governments that will deny or not publicly acknowledge certain genocides for political reasons, for example, and they're not often held to the same scrutiny, right? And then, a lot of people will look past those formal, the lack of formal acknowledgements of certain genocides in the modern day in support of certain ideologies and in support of certain political initiatives. So the biggest one for me in that regard, for anybody who may be listening or watching, maybe you're watching this back or whatever, is the thing that came to mind is that to maintain diplomatic relations with Turkey, for example, there's currently still, as far as I'm aware, no formal acknowledgement of the current Israeli government with regards to the Armenian genocide. So the nation state of Turkey was basically founded off of that genocide, right? In order to maintain diplomatic relations with Turkey, as far as I'm aware, the current government, and it's not everybody in the government, I want to make that perfectly clear, as far as I'm aware, there's strong calls, I believe, from within certain parts of the Israeli government to actually recognize the Armenian genocide, but currently I don't believe it is formally recognized by the Israeli government in order to maintain diplomatic relations with Turkey. If they acknowledge that, and they acknowledge that Turkey was essentially founded off of that, then it might impede certain diplomatic relations. And a lot of people then will look past that, if you will, or at least not put it to the same scrutiny, as people do when it comes to the Holocaust, for example, which does go to show how ingrained it has become in public consciousness. What matters to me, ultimately, in any of these debates, right, is what is true and what isn't. That's what matters to me. So the thing we were taught all the way through school is that it was, approximately 6.6 million that was systematically killed, and they used certain methods, gas chambers, Zyklon B gas, all of this stuff. The standard narrative that we were all taught, right? Now, there was lies by omission, for example, not necessarily with regards to that from my understanding, but with regards to other aspects that we were taught about Nazi Germany. At no point were we taught in the book burnings, for example, Kristallnacht, that it wasn't just Jewish because it was Jewish literature that was thrown out. A lot of it was because it was seen as promoting all kinds of degeneracy. So like Magnus Hirschfeld, and a lot of his books were obviously, and his works were obviously targeted during Kristallnacht as well. Little things like that get you to question things, at the very least, get you to ask yourself some questions. And that doesn't mean you jump to the conclusions and say then, well, everything that we were taught was a lie, necessarily, in my opinion, but it gets you to at least start understanding why different people hold different opinions on these things, And especially when you understand that you have only been fed one side of history through the school system. You've only ever been fed one side of history through the school system, and it's been heavily, heavily politicized. That is another cause for skepticism, to at least ask questions. Well, has what I've been taught been wholly true? And why was I not taught, or what other perspectives exist out there? So basically the question that, that's why I asked that question at the end of the podcast, really, in the outro segment, was, does that mean that we throw out everything that a person has to say about anything else? So economic policy, about, healthcare policy, whatever else, right? Does it mean that you just get to call anybody any term and completely dismiss everything that they have to say? Because that's how I often see it being used. That's how I often see it being used. And it's an immediate optical victory. The biggest thing is regardless of, for example, whether it's true or not, whether it's wholly true or not, whether the entire narrative that we've been told is true or not, that it's an immediate optical victory. And people, particularly in the mainstream media, the open border lefties and so on, will use it because it's an immediate optical victory. It's why Liam Tufts went straight to it. It's why every time that you've seen a lot of people talk about these things, usually it's the person that they're sort of having this verbal confrontation, their verbal sparring partner, if you will. It's usually the person that's taking the position opposed to the nationalists that actually broaches this issue. It's not usually the person who's taking the nationalist position. Take, for example, your Steve Laws when he was sitting down with Liam Tufts and when he was sitting down with Andrew Gold, for example. It wasn't him that went straight, Holocaust, Hitler, Nazis, etc. He talked about it openly, and as far as I'm aware, honestly. If somebody's going to say something like that, I don't really think that they have much reason to lie, because let's face it, the kind of shit that you get for those kinds of remarks, you'd have to be an ardent believer, I think, to really put yourself through the backlash that you're going to get, right? You have to at least be confident in what you believe, right? And obviously it matters just whether the facts support that. But every single time it's been broached, like it was in the part of the conversation with Josh Fernie where we talked about it, it's the interviewer that broached the question. And they, in my opinion at least, I think, do it for an easy optical victory, right? Because the biggest question that I have, like many others have, I think will have, for example, is that it matters whether it's true. But instantly, with how much it's been ingrained in the public consciousness, even if it wasn't true, with how many people just take what they've learned, take what they've been taught through the state school system on face value, they get an immediate optical victory. It's one of those things that's almost like a Pavlovian conditioning, if you will. That the minute you hear it, and the minute you hear somebody doubt the narrative, that is your cue to, call the police. They're this, they're that, and then all of a sudden they're the embodiment of a villain from the 20th century, when they might have genuine questions. And I think people have had genuine questions on these narratives throughout history. There's not an insignificant faction that is skeptical of this historical event, either in full or in part. Right? There's not an insignificant faction, and there's been many people all throughout history. I just want to turn the sound back on a minute, because I think I just want to see if you can hear my washing machine in the background. I don't know if you can, but I'll just quickly close the door anyway. Just a bit quick. So yeah, but I think they'll do it because as it presents an easy optical victory to get instantly then the interviewer, they don't have to tangle with any of the other points, right? You saw how much then that Andrew Gold kept circling back to these things and tried to keep circling back to the Norman invasion, right? When he was talking about demographic changes and whatever else in Britain, gives them immediate optical victories. And they could do that as well. One of the parts of the conversation we talked about was how good the lefties are in particular, of how good they are at spinning the moral authority back onto people for objecting to their own replacement. You know what I mean? It was great to catch up with Josh as well. She saw that he was working on the farm. For those who don't know, Josh is a nationalist activist who sat down with me twice for the podcast now. And I wanted to get him on straight away when I saw that he'd had to leave a position of work that he was at on a farm because of harassment that pro-open border lefties were putting onto the people who employed him. And having been through, not quite to the extent that he described, but having been through that similar process self, where for political reasons, nothing to do with how well you work or anything like that, do you lose out on employment. It was like, oh, well, this would be a great thing to talk about, and also then talk about the rest of it as well, which I thought was a pretty good conversation. But yeah, it's good to hear that he's got a good support network around him and he's able to bounce back as well. I certainly hope so anyway. I certainly hope so. But if there's anybody watching, if there's anybody in the chat or whatever that wants to weigh in on their thoughts on anything that we've discussed so far, I don't even know if anybody's really watched it yet, to be honest. The views are only about 20 or so. You can find the link to watch it down in the description. But yeah, presented a lot of things to talk about. If you've watched some of the shorts, if you've watched some of the shorts that have come out from it as well, some of the clips as well, I think this would be a good one to watch, actually. I might bring this one up on screen, actually. Here we go. Spring. There we are. Okay. Oh, what's that? Oh. Sorry, somebody's mentioned me in a video at the moment. Hold on. What the hell's this? Has somebody just... Oh, I think that's right. Okay. I was very confused. I think that's right. Okay. I think I know what that is. Sorry, guys. I saw a video that somebody mentioned me in a video, and it was just an upload of my trailer for my conversation with Catherine Watkins. I got a feeling it's her YouTube channel. Let me just double check, because I've never seen this YouTube channel before, but it does have her name on it. Yeah, it's her YouTube channel. That's fine. But then I was thinking, someone's just stolen my content and re-uploaded it. I was going to go absolutely nuts. But yeah, so right, now that we've got that out of the way, and go back to this. So one thing which was important, I thought, to talk about, this is a 20-minute clip from the podcast, talking about public good versus state good and the myth of the powerful British minority. We talked about Eva Vladingerbrook, her being barred from entering the UK because she was deemed not conducive to the public good, whatever the hell that means, right? So this was really, really good, because a lot of people, I saw a status on X when Elon Musk put up that whites are a rapidly dying minority. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. He's the infamous. I think he's a Pakistani descent, if I'm not mistaken, lawyer. And he said, why is it a problem if they're minoritized? I thought we were all treated equally and respectfully. We all know exactly what's going to happen the moment the indigenous people are made a minority in the only land they call home. It's going to be the same case where whites are a minority anywhere else, because they're inherently despised all across the world. It'll be Kildeboa. It'll be Kildeboa, except it'll be kill the British, you know what I mean? Or, as many of these people with their religion are called on to do, we will be made into slaves, essentially. We will either be forced to convert or killed or made into slaves. And we will be made second-class citizens, potentially even lower than animals in our own home. That's why it matters. We know that we will not get the same treatment that we have afforded other minorities. You could make the argument we've been benevolent massively to our own detriment, right? But it's the myth of this powerful British minority. People are honestly thinking at this point that we'll get the same minority rights that others have been afforded. And it is dangerously, dangerously naive. Very, very dangerously naive. And that's why I think it'd be good to start playing this clip a moment, which I'll bring up on screen for you. Here we go. It might not play the audio right away, but I'll bring this up on screen now, because this is important to go through, I think.
Hammer them when he's letting in these Egyptian anti-white almost terrorists pretty much, but he's letting in these anti-white Egyptian, and he's gone and banned Eva Vlar, Vlar Dingabrook.
I know.
That's like
Al-Fateh. Is it Al-Fateh? That's his name, and it's something like that. The one who said that I think he said white people are a scourge on the planet or something like that.
Saying that we should have white genocide and stuff like that.
So yeah,
but this is the
these are from a good while ago. Obviously, these posts which you see here are from a good while ago. But make no mistake, people still think this way today. You still hear the chants of "kill the boa" today. So how do you think it's going to be any different in Britain, right? We are Rhodesia, and if we're not careful, we'll go the same way, and that'll be it. That'll be it for the British people. They have nowhere else to go, right? The indigenous British people, they have nowhere else to go. So for those of you who, if you can see this on screen or whatever, he's responding to somebody in 2013. This was, fuck that, sounds like you need more fear. Random shooting of white males should convince them that racism costs lives. Obviously, this was perfectly fine. This is back before Elon Musk bought Twitter and made it into X, right? And it was heavily censored, heavily left-wing coded, right? And all he's done is he's given many voices the power to come back and engage in their freedom of speech, which they were obviously deprived of at the time. Still not able to, or still not seeming to do it for everybody, seeing that a lot of people have been tagging old accounts from some of the Patriotic Alternative guys. So the Patriotic Alternative account was disabled. Mark Collette's account was disabled. Laura Towler's account was disabled. Sam Mellier's account was disabled. They've yet to be reinstated. Can we hope that they certainly do, if they can reinstate Fuentes, and if the Ayatollah friggin' Khamenei or whatever his fucking name is can be on there, you know what I mean, then certainly Mark Collette can. He put in my opinion, what is a tremendous showing of articulation and education on these topics in a recent podcast interview, which I'll be going over at some point in the future. But then he's also said to somebody else, once again, humanity will not be redeemed until we commit genocide against all white people. He was saying that some of my best friends are white. Some of his best friends are white, but he obviously wants to murder them systematically because of their race. Again, this is one person that openly was saying it at one point, and as far as I'm aware, has made no effort to really truly repent of these comments. And I don't think we should be really caring whether he does or not, to be honest, out the frigging door, right? But again, he's saying it. How many people silently think it, and how many people silently plot these things off the back of it, that they want to target people, the indigenous people, because of their race?
And the second person that that our government has said is not conducive to the public good when all they do is stand for their own people. Because Renaud Camus, he was meant to be speaking at our remigration conference, and he's a gay French Zionist. You know, I actually think he's Jewish, and they wouldn't let him in because he believes that the Great Replacement is happening. He's always gone on about it. He's like in his 70s or something as well, and he's got cancer. And they
tells you a lot that Josh would be part of a political party and want to hear from this person, be excited. I remember him posting about it at the time before, again, they barred Renaud Camus from coming into the country. When you look at the stance of a lot of nationalists on the state of Israel and Jewish people and stuff like that, and the people obviously who support the state of Israel, they don't see eye to eye on these topics. But obviously you're seeing here now sort of like that mutual interest, so to speak. And also, again, corroborates what Josh was saying when he says that a lot of these, places, for example, it's kind of a fear that I have when I see how ardent people are in their beliefs on the right. I mean, so I think if there's any kind of, is dissidation a word? Any kind of dissent from what like the most extreme view of the right wing is, if there's any kind of, for lack of a better term, lack of purity in the belief, then that's going to put a target on your back as much as they would have a target on the back of a communist, for example. But if you're going to have somebody you're going to invite them to the country when you are a proud ethno-nationalist or nationalist party who is a gay French Zionist, many of the things right there that you would inherently be opposed to with the British nationalist position, shows that in many ways, I think it actually kind of corroborates what Josh was saying when he says that they're not an echo chamber, and that, in many ways, the main echo chamber is coming a lot from the radical left. It's coming a lot from the radical left, and they obviously, you see a lot of the terrorism that's occurring nowadays, the domestic terrorism anyway, like in America, that seems to be where it's coming from, right? That seems to be where it's coming from. They're trying to deliberately provoke things to almost try and make themselves into martyrs.
They said that his presence in Britain was not conducive for the public good. And now Ava Vlar, I'll call her Ava Vlar instead of Vlar Dinglebrook every time, okay? So Ava Vlar, she went and criticised Keir Starmer, and then 48 hours later, he's like, your presence is not conducive for the public good. But yeah, look at all these foreigners, all these third worlders that come in and start stabbing up the streets, and then they're kept, they're not deported. How are these people seen as conducive, but the people who are educated, well educated, have been out in the world and have realised what's going on, why are they not seen as conducive? It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is that if I talked about this I was trying to record a solo political commentary episode yesterday just for the show, talking about this exact situation, talking about Eva's situation. I've seen an update on that. Apparently Rupert Lowe is going to be raising it with the Home Office, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully we may see a reversal. Who knows?
So on this topic, I've yet to see if there's any notion of Rupert Lowe being successful in trying to get it reversed from the Home Office. She was meant to be speaking, as far as I'm aware, at a Tommy Robinson event in May. Many of whom then the nationalists again was saying that, well, no, this actually damages nationalism in some ways, her affiliation with Tommy Robinson. But again, that's a separate conversation in and of itself. But the post that she made, if you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, she made it on the 9th of January. Keir Starmer wants to crack down on X under the pretense of women's safety, whilst he's the one allowing the ongoing rape and killing of British girls by migrant rape gangs. Evil, despicable man. I'm not sure how much reach it got, but obviously Eva has 1.2 million followers on X. She has a lot of reach and a lot of pull in that regard, and a lot of influence. And then it came across a couple of days later, you're not coming to the UK. So again, you're seeing that it was perfect. It was purely politicized. It was purely politicized. And you're seeing there why I spoke about this in the episode that I recorded earlier on today that I was hoping to get out today, but I couldn't record at my slot that I wanted to because there was an open reach engineer banging all sorts of shit on the wall next to me in the house next door. So couldn't record when I wanted to, missed the upload window. Probably will re-record that episode now, because I realized I was getting quite rambly towards the end, and it took me a lot longer than I thought it was as well. It was a near 2-hour episode, and you're seeing the difference now between public good and state good. I think we need to start calling more things by what they truly are, and that is an arm of the state, not an arm necessarily of the public. So a lot of things that you see are being done in the quote-unquote public good are not being done in the public good. They're being done in Big Brother's good. They're being done in the state's good. So banning Eva Vladingerbrook because she's a political dissident, obviously very, very good for a tyrannical state that doesn't want anybody being exposed to any kind of influence in political views that they would not want. But obviously that's massively bad for the public, because more political perspective is usually a good thing, and it actually will wake them up to the kind of tyranny that they're living under. Right. So obviously very good for the public, not so good for the state, but they make this misnomer by by replacing state with public. So you got public school, public health, public transport, right? Everything to do with it pretty much being state run, right? And if then public is equated with meaning good, as many people do in this socialist framework, well, that equates state with being good, and then you essentially have the state being God, and that's where people are, right? That's where people are. Where so many people were clapping out, myself included, because I couldn't see it at the time, clapping like seals on their front porches for the NHS, thinking they're actually making a difference, right? So we need to start taking back control of the terms massively, in my opinion, with replacing things like public good with state good, which is a far more accurate conception of what is actually going on. And usually if something is in the state good, it's not going to be in the public good, at least in the system that we live under.
The biggest thing is that I sort of cottoned onto is like, oh, hang on. If you replace public good with state good, and i.e. referring to the government, I think then you can see where the wider con is taking place. Then you see that allowing all of these people to just come in through a completely vapid open border, completely paper thin border and stay here, you turn them into voters, you turn them into citizens, you overthrow the citizens' rights that way. That's very conducive to the state good that's already committing treason anyway. It's not conducive to the public good. If you have somebody come in who's a contrarian speaker, I mean, she calls herself the shield maiden of the far right, right? So you have somebody come in who speaks that message of against the government. It's not conducive to the state as a good, but it would be very conducive to public good. It's again that whole thing. Everything is turned on its head. I think if people in their mind replace state in this instance now with public, they'll instantly see, the state is operating in its own best interests, not in the government's not in the people's best interests. Sorry, and as a result, then you can see that they're just keeping Eva out because she would be a threat to their power and influence. And they're letting all of the, illegals, no matter who, and ramping up legal immigration. Obviously, that's the far bigger problem. And, because then that is conducive to their goal of using
treason in the state good. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Treason in the state good.
Democracy to destroy democracy, essentially, and commit a treason unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Well, look, all you got to do is look at London and look at California. Do you know the two places that they are the blueprint for how they want the whole of the West to look? Do you know California, like you're saying, imports millions, well, maybe not millions, but imports loads and loads of illegals into their state in America so that they can keep it blue. And it's like London, they have...
That's treason, by the way, because it's subversion of what the native people, the citizens of California in this instance, and the citizens of America would want. It's the state, again, Gavin Newsom in this instance being the governor of California, would be acting in his own best interest, not in his people's interests. So to call that, for example, then to say mass deportations are not in the public good, should we say, is the way that the UK government would phrase it. You're seeing there the parallel, and it's treason whatever way you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, and not enough people are angry about it.
They have demographically replaced that area so wildly that they struggle to get Sadiq Khan out of the mayoral position. Do you know? And we cannot allow that to happen across the rest of Britain.
Agreed. That's why in London they got to put Layla forward. Because it shows exactly the demographic. Shows exactly the demographic who they feel they have to appeal to.
The capitulation is just right out there for everyone to see.
But yeah, you brought up California as another great example, because I believe they call it the Calcutta of America. I heard somebody refer to it one time as the Calcutta of America.
It was Rob Schneider, by the way. It was Rob Schneider that referred to it as the Calcutta of America. I can't remember the video where I saw him refer to it, but I know it was Rob Schneider. But yeah, I can't forget what we were. But yeah, it's treason by any measure, ladies and gentlemen. Sadly, not enough people are, really requisitely angry about that, in my opinion.
And have you seen what's going on in Minnesota, like Minneapolis at the moment with the ice stuff and everything like that?
And that as well, yeah.
If people think,
obviously they're dealing with that problem now. That's why they put Omar Fateh forward, and the only reason that Jacob Frey ended up getting re-elected in that election was, or Jacob Fry, whatever his name is, was because he pitted rival groups of Somalis against each other. That's where they are in Minnesota, right? Pitting rival groups of Somalis against each other. And in London, you're now going to have, in many ways, Muslim sectarian conflicts over whether they want the effeminate, closeted, Pakistani Muslim, or if they want the, in many ways, kind of more masculine, kind of feministy boss baby Muslim. Neither of which are British for a start, which is the main problem, obviously. Neither of which are British, but both subscribe to the same ideology, which we know is a conquering ideology and are the embodiment of the very problems that we are talking about. And you expect them to deliver the solutions that many of the British people want. No, it's only going to come from somebody who is indigenous and has that kind of skin in the game. Steve Laws uses that phrase, for example, talking about skin in the game with regards to people who, have foreign friends and all of this stuff, right? And people who've, maybe in, interracial relationships and stuff like that, right? We have these people now, like Layla and Sadiq and all the rest of them, having skin in the game. And many of our politicians, it seems that Rupert Lowe is the main exception to this, have skin in the game of the treason of the British people. And that's the interest which they're mainly going to operate on. We should be prepared for that. But you're seeing the scale of the problem when you have to put forward either, for Mayor of London, you've either now got the choice seemingly between a Muslim male and a Muslim female, both of which are foreign, and potentially for the next prime ministership, if the Keir Starmer ends up abdicating the throne, should we say, you potentially end up with a Pakistani Muslim female, a Sri Lankan Muslim male, if Nigel Farage capitulates and leaves his role as the head of reform, and a Caribbean, Caribbean guy. That's where we are. That is conquered to an unprecedented degree, right? That is conquered to an unprecedented degree, and that should piss off a lot more people than it actually does.
We're not in a war, man. There's a Cold War. The Cold War never really ended. You know what I mean? It's like we really, really are. But it's a war of political initiatives in this point. It's a war of demographics, and then the culture that stems down from that. That's the biggest thing, which I see a lot of people not really. A lot of people I don't think want to confront that. And the biggest thing is that I always think if you approach these biggest thing you have to confront with regards to this, because you don't just confront the reality of just the shifting demographics in terms of percentages. People have to confront their views on abortion. People have to confront their views on the nuclear family. People have to confront their views on the roles of men and women in society. People have to confront their views on race. People have to confront their views on religion. There's so many things that these are the weapons that this war is being fought with. It's not necessarily always, because we have the odd terror attack here and there, being fought with bullets and bombs and, cars in the case of Magdeburg, right? It's not necessarily being fought with that. It's not a hot war. That's why I called it kind of like just an extension of the Cold War, because now we have the lingering communist threat, right? That's kind of lingered over from the Cold War. Obviously, Keir Starmer having spent time in Czechoslovakia and Soviet work camps, right? So you have that, right? We're literally being led and have been led seemingly for a long time now by communist Fabians, and that's where we end up in the position where we are. But not only that, you're now having this war of birth rates and immigration rates. But obviously then those present the problems that I just listed, and there's probably more that are slipping my mind at the moment that I'm not thinking of. But the root of the problem is that the nation is its people. The nation is its people, and its customs will come downstream from that. So a lot of people are uncomfortable with bringing it back to the
to the notion of the people, because then that makes them very, very uncomfortable, usually because of the conversations around race and ethnicity, right? And then religion is I think a close second, right? I think that the conversation around race and ethnicity is the biggest, frightener for a lot of people, then religion, and then other things like abortion and contraception, the role of religion, like Christianity being pro-family, the roles of men and women, and how men and women are meant to act, their duties, etc. It requires people to confront all of these things, and the reality is, sadly, is that many people have kept themselves in a position where they're not willing to confront it. Just seems that many people, sadly, are not ready for that conversation.
With many others, if you're approaching them with a genuine open mind and curiosity, not so much as though you just instantly believe whatever anybody tells you, but if you're approaching the questions honestly, there's going to be things that you run up against. You're going to end up having to confront and having to, as we've seen many others do now, the question of, are the British a people? Who are the British? All of these questions, right? But you see many people who hold what has been termed the civic nationalist position, they end up coming to pretty much the same conclusion that, well, anybody can be British. Well, that's the globalist communist line. So instantly then you're going to, if you approach these questions honestly, you're going to end up wrestling with these concepts like ethnicity and like all of these things. And I just don't think many people are prepared to do that yet, because they don't like where that could lead in terms of political initiative, and it makes them feel uncomfortable more than anything else, rather than it's the political reality and it's something we have to confront whether we like it or not. Oh, we got a little interloper in the background.
Yeah, the pussycat's coming in.
Oh, reminds me of an interview I done once. My dog was jumping up all over the guest when they came here. So,
but you see how you're saying there about civic.
Go into that civic nationalist thing as well. My dog done that in the last conversation that I had with Catherine Watkins as well, which kind of segues me quite nicely into the next sort of thing, which I want to just put in the chat for anybody who may be watching this as a VOD later on, for example. I'll just put them in the chat in case anybody wants to go and check them out. Locals, Patreon, and YouTube memberships. My conversation with Catherine Watkins is live at the moment. So if you want to go over, and I'll be setting up a little bit of a promotion very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that is the link in the chat for the locals link. It's also available on Patreon, which will be I'll close that tab. There we are. Oh, actually, wait there. I'm going to put it in this chat because then it'll go into the Rumble chat as well. So that's the one for Patreon. I'll just re-put the one in there for that one. There we go. That should come up now, surely. Yeah. Refresh the page a minute. Oh. Just decided I wanted to delete my live chats from the thing. Oh, great. Seems that my internet is going a little bit slow at the moment, which is sad. Which is sad, yeah. It's only put the locals one in there. It's only put the locals one in there for the moment, so I'll just grab the Patreon one again and make sure that I put it in there. Hopefully it works. And also in YouTube members area. So you can, if you take out the membership, by the way, if you get it on membership, you'll be able to watch it completely ad-free as well in all of the membership areas. And you'll be able to get it there as well. So hopefully that will work. There we are. Okay. Okay. That seems to all be working good. It seems to have duplicated the links that I've sent in the chat, but oh well, everything is going terribly wrong. But yeah, really, really tremendous conversation. that one was a really, really tremendous and interesting conversation, in my opinion. So I can't remember how I got on to this, but stay tuned. There'll be a little bit of a promotion running soon. Very, very limited promotional access for anybody who might want to be getting in on this conversation early, but otherwise it'll be up next week.
Nationalists coming over to our way of thinking. The reason that they're so terrified, they can say that our way of thinking is completely justified and all this, but then they immediately go to their head that if they start thinking our way, it immediately makes them this villain of the 20th century. It immediately turns them into this wild Nazi, you know, and it's just crazy. Like, this is, for the past 80 years, the West, the European peoples have been brainwashed into believing that if we come together, we're all of a sudden going to start to want to take over the world and start to gas everyone, you know? And it's just, people are breaking free of this brainwashing, because just like yourself, more and more people are finding the confidence to go finding their own answers, go and finding their own information. And because of this, people are realizing that.
That is sadly how a lot of people think. So quickly, it seems like a meme. It seems like a meme, right? But a lot of people do think that way. A lot of people really, really do think that way. In that instantly people are going to want to go instantly commit mass atrocities and all these other things, right? So how quickly Liam Tufts pivoted to it and then re-pivoted back to it in his interview with Steve Laws, when really there was no impetus to do so. You know, Steve, at least overtly, right? It's impossible to know what's going on inside his head at any given time. He seems to be quite an honest guy. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing why he seems to have resonated with a lot of people. He seems to just be completely unapologetically honest, right? That's one of the biggest things you can say about him, is he doesn't pull any punches and he means what he says, right? I think that's why a lot of people resonate with him. And that it wasn't him that really turned the conversation on that, expressing any kind of desire to commit any kind of, you know, mass atrocity in the way that would be reminiscent of the 20th century. No, it was Liam, in the civic nationalist or the liberal with a bit of problem with Islam, who pushed that line. And that tells you a lot as well. That tells you a lot about where people's focuses lie, is that in order to discredit the modern political movement of nationalism, you have to attack it from being this bogeyman of the 20th century. The reality is many people now, in their fight for survival, are simply expressing less care, to be honest. In many ways, they're simply not caring as much anymore. And not only are they not as bothered by it, many of them are asking themselves questions that they never ever would have asked before. And that is obviously seen as a crime in and of itself, because to deviate from what is politically acceptable is obviously a crime in today's society.
Maybe things aren't like that, and that's why more and more people are coming together, and it's just great, mate. You know.
Mm-hmm. You saw that with the Liam Tufts conversation with Steve Laws. I'd done a quite a long live stream going through it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it instantly, I can't even remember how it got onto the topic, but the topic of like World War II and the Holocaust narrative and all of that didn't even really go down that route, because Liam, for some reason, going on this thing where he would constantly go back to his personal anecdotes, like, oh, my mate footlong or my mate whatever, right? But the other thing is, he instantly, as soon as the conversation came up, and then Liam went to, oh, so you want to gas the Jews? It's like, well, no.
I know.
Nobody ever said that. I was like, it's a jump. It's a jump, to say the least.
It's nuts. That's how their brain goes, though. Oh, white people get together, gas the Jews. They want to gas the Jews. There's a lot of white people together.
There's an ad. No.
It's just like there's a lot of things in that conversation. I'd like to see things go a different.
To be fair, I had the control over monetization. I should have turned the ads off just for the purposes of watching this.
Different way if you're going to be in the position of asking those questions. But yeah, it's mad how you have people who would be termed ethno-nationalists, right? But again, you ask anybody who's on the nationalist side, they just say that that's just a nationalist position, right? A nation is its people, essentially. and you know, instantly then it goes to like, oh, the 20th century and the Holocaust and all of this stuff, and it's like, well, not necessarily. Not necessarily, you know what I mean? It's often used as a deflection tactic, you know, and it's often used as a cudgel to keep people silent.
That's it. But it's the straw man argument that's worked since like.
And let's say what we've been told throughout school is true. Nothing has been more damaging for the credibility of that narrative, really, than that, right? But when people use things and use narratives as weapons to stifle valid political discussion. That's why you see people, you know, getting very skeptical of a lot of historical narratives nowadays, seemingly the Holocaust in particular, when they never ever would have before, because they're seeing how much it has been used as a political weapon. And when you see that, you can't help but ask yourself, why? You can't help but ask yourself, why? If you need to keep going back to that in order to discredit things in the modern day, why is it, you know, why would it be relevant? It was Britain around that time that was going through from the, you know, the West, and obviously the other, you know, the allied nations that were going through and finding the camps and liberating them and so on. Why would then that generational guilt be lorded over us as well and be used to combat any other kind of nationalist sentiment and patriotic sentiment? It obviously then gets you questioning the people that propose alliances between certain groups to combat nationalist and patriotic sentiment. And you can't help people that go down the routes of questioning historical narratives and all of those things. But they'll keep in mind the whole time that, hang on, this thing was used as a weapon. You know what I mean? This thing was used as a weapon to stifle valid political discussion, and that's one of the biggest things that destroys the credibility in many people's eyes, at least in terms of getting people to investigate and do their own investigations of historical narratives, than using them as weapons to unfairly dismiss people's either valid criticisms, valid observations, valid political points where before it's not really relevant. And it's used as a demonization tactic. It's used as a demonization tactic because it's invoked to imply that the person proposing these ideas is the 20th century supervillain that wants to kill everybody, and as a result then it puts a target on their back to potentially justify their murder as well. So again, you're going to radicalize a lot of people that way. You're going to radicalize a lot of people that way, at least in terms of doing their own investigation and being skeptical and stuff like that.
The 70s, do you know, like, oh, this could bring about another Holocaust. It's just like the straw man argument, and that's what I mean. It's just so strange. Well, not strange because it's brilliant, but the fact that it's just the past few years, people have just had enough of it, and it's our generations, you know, mine and yours, coming through, because our parents, they're still all, you know, they're still believing. Like me and my family, like our politics could be any further from the truth. Like I've got a sister that went and studied like gender studies and that, you know, like a proper far left liberal, and my family love it, but my politics like, oh, you're racist, oh, grow up.
Do you find that makes like I don't know, like communicating with them or talking with them if certain things come up like kind of difficult? Does it strain the relationship or anything like that? Do you often find that?
Yeah,
because I'm in a very similar position. Like if certain topics come up, I'm just in the back of my head thinking, don't ask me about this because you're not gonna like my answer, and it's gonna start something, and we're gonna get into this, and like just don't ask about it. And then if it comes up, and I'm like, oh well, I'm not gonna like, you know, lie. So.
Yeah. And this is sadly how effective that the government propaganda has been as well, where it will tear families apart. This stuff will tear families apart, and it's really, really sad. And a lot of people have been brought, this was a comment that I discussed on the podcast as well. Somebody left, and it was almost like it came out straight in a monologue, that a lot of people have come to the positions that they want, the positions that they hold down, not because they wanted to, not because they woke up one day and decided they wanted to install the Fourth Reich and anything like that and start killing people, right? Because they realize it's about survival. They realize the target that's on their back. They realize what happens if they do nothing. They realize what they stand to lose if they do nothing, and they weigh the consequences, and they realize, being called a false name, right, or being called a label is not as bad as the consequences that await us if we do nothing. And, you know, you have family members that just don't see it, either because they won't allow themselves to see it or they're too ignorant to see it, right? Some people, like, I couldn't see what COVID really was at the time. You know what I mean? So you have some people which you hope that you can get to at least try and assess things, try and assess your position critically and try and see where you're coming from. There's many people that are simply too prideful for that. There's many people that are simply too prideful for that. And the thing is, well, you have these conflicts in your family, and I think because they don't realize the danger that they're getting themselves into with the initiatives that they support. They don't realize how they are being used for a crooked politician's political gain, and how they'll be thrown to the wolves the minute, the second, the millisecond that they outlive their usefulness. Ian, how you doing, my man? How you doing? Hope you're doing well, good sir. It's a pleasure to see you. But I can't straight thought for a moment. Yeah, either because they're too, prideful or ignorant to see it, that you realize you're doing it for them as well, because they don't realize how they're being used. They don't realize how they're being used by a treasonous government. And it's sad. It's sad. You just wish that they could wake up and see at least how they're being used. You don't have to agree with Josh and everything. You don't have to all of a sudden start saying that you're skeptical of the Holocaust and anything like that to see where he's coming from with the political initiatives in the modern day, at the very least. Right? It's just sad, man. It's sad when families get fallen apart, because families are the bedrock of society that form the opposition to tyrannical rule a lot of the time, and that's why the government has done an exceptionally good job of splitting the family up. And that's another thing we talk about, me and Catherine Watkins talk about as well, which is another reason why you should go and listen to that conversation or watch that conversation.
So we've, now I just don't really go around there anymore, just because things got so bad. And the way things, I honestly thought as things got, as the window moved, they'd come more over to my way of thinking, because they agree with so many of my points, but they just can't get past the whole, this whole being tolerant. That's their favorite thing, be tolerant. I've been tolerant for too long, man.
Yeah, it's been weaponized.
Yeah, and but I'm okay with that, mate. I'm not going to let anything stop me fighting for our people. I'm not going to let anything stop me fighting for you, brother. Do you know? But, people are going to come and people are going to go, but my family will always be there. Do you know? They'll always be there. If I needed my family, they'd be there. They're not cutting me out in that sort of way. But this is a journey they don't want to take with me, and that's their decision. But I'm taking. I
suppose at the same time, you're doing it for them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. They just can't see it.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I talked about this with people before, and I'm looking at it's coming into the big cities in Wales at the moment, and I don't think the maps are as accurate as they claim they are, and I think the
sad thing is that you have so many examples that you can point to. You have so many examples throughout history that you can point to what happens when either people, and this is especially white people in the modern day, what happens when they get minoritized. You look at South Africa, you look at Rhodesia, and obviously Rhodesia was sabotaged from within by, British officials and the monarchy themselves, right? So take that into account as well. But you have amazing precedent for the things that happen. You look what happened during the time period before the Crusades. You look what happened, the reason why there was the one of the the last stands at Vienna. The invaders, the Islamic invaders that were coming into Europe. Why there was a massive effort to remove Islam from Spain and Portugal and all of those areas when it essentially colonized those areas. And Islam is one part. It's the people that bring those things as well. You know what I mean? Because obviously that's downstream from the people that bring it, and they have this myth that it's not going to happen to us, right? They have this myth that it's not going to happen to us, but it is. It absolutely is if nothing's going to be done, right? This myth of the powerful British minority is the thing that they have in mind, which we'll get into this clip. We'll go through this clip, and then I think that'll pretty much do it for going recapping some of the things that we've been through. I haven't had time to catch Josh. Look forward to tomorrow. No worries, Ian. No worries at all. I really enjoyed this conversation. Josh is a guy that I find quite easy to have pretty good conversations with, and he's been nothing but friendly and nothing but good with me. So, I got nothing but good things to say. about Josh. You know, a lot of people, when you hear some of the things that he thinks, you know, with regards to certain historical narratives and stuff like that, I instinctively reached out to Josh after that part of the conversation, which you'll find out about when you watch it tomorrow, and if you watch it. I wanted to understand more. No, people actually reached out, and I wanted to understand more about what actually brought him to the things that he thinks and where I can learn about these things. Because I think one of the biggest things as well is that people obviously trusting in their own faculties, that they can hear an opinion that maybe massively offends them, even if they have really no good reason to necessarily feel offended, right? But they can hear an opinion which they've been ingrained to think, oh my God, that's massively offensive. How can you think that? But then you can engage the mechanisms to go, well, why do you think that? Why is that what you think? What have you read? What have you listened to? What have you watched? What have you, and how? And then obviously assessing if that's reliable, right? And trying to actually understand it. I think it's a Abraham Lincoln quote of all things. Like, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. I believe that's the saying, right? So that's what I try to do. I don't do a very good job of it. If you look at my X feed, right? Obviously, X is very often a hub of anger more than anything else, right? Anger and emotion, but. I try to think, especially if it's somebody that's on my side of the fence, right? Which I certainly lean far, far more to the right than I do to the left, right? For the most part. And but then there's obviously people that have views that I look at and I think, oh God, is that right? No, I'm always thinking in terms of like, is what they're saying correct? Is what they're saying objectively true? That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't care really how it makes any other particular group feel. I care about is what they're saying true. If somebody is saying that only this amount died in the Holocaust, not the amount that we've been told through school and everything like that, my point is, right, okay, what's the evidence to show that this is true and not the figure that I've been told through school? That's what I care about. I don't care about if that mere conversation offends a certain group of people. I want to know the truth, right? That's what I want to know. Don't care if then it turns out to be a lie that we've been told and people get a hissy fit because of that and whatever, and people start crying all these different labels and whatever else, like anti-Semitism, etc. I don't care. I care about what is actually true and what actually happened. And I know that I've only been fed one side of the story. So that's why I know that I want to reach out to understand what people think more. And I know that obviously that faction that have skepticism over this particular historical narrative in particular is not small. Is not small. And they're not, uneducated, low IQ, bumbling, retards, for lack of a better word, right? They're not low IQ, bumbling idiots. They can articulate themselves pretty well. A lot of them have written articles and articles and articles on the subject. So I'm like, I need to understand this more. And I need to trust myself that I can discern the truth from that. So, yeah. It's in the public good if you continue to go with the status quo, right? So part of it is kind of a little bit of a duty to not go with the status quo. And that doesn't mean all of a sudden you have to start goose-stepping, Roman saluting, Holocaust denying overnight. Doesn't mean that whatsoever. At least that's the way that I see it anyway. Let's finish off this where we're going into the myth of the minority now, the myth of the powerful British minority. I don't know how people think this. I don't know how you can look at South Africa chanting "Kill the Boer," right, and think that we're going to be some kind of powerful minority. I don't see how you can think this, but so many people do.
The call for an emergency census next year is kind of telling with regards to that. I think the problems that we have in Wales are a lot worse than what, say, the census maps would have us believe. But you look at England, you look at London, you look at Luton, you look at Oldham, Telford, all of these other areas, the hot spots. And I'm like, well, look at what's happened up there. I'd be like, don't you think we should be concerned about the fact that our politicians are bringing in the same initiatives to make our communities look the same way? Yeah. And instantly people go, oh, well, that's up there. That's not here. I'm like, but the initiatives are the same. The political outlook is the same. The things that they want to do are the same. Why do you not think the same things will happen? And then the biggest areas you see,
And the areas where these were happening as well, the rape gangs were happening when British people were about 95% of the population. It did not take much in terms of ethnic displacement for these things to start popping up. You have areas of Wales, for example, very, very top area of Rhyl, where the native population, at least what I'm assuming is the native population anyway, is sitting roundabout between, I think it's an average of about 94%. And they had a rape gang that turned up there for foreigners. I believe it was... I don't know whether it was 2 Pakistanis, two Afghans. I think it was a Bangladeshi and a Hindi, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It was Sikh. It was a Sikh guy. Singh was his surname. One of the guys had the surname Singh, which sort of gave the game away for him. But I think it was a mix of, sort of Bangladeshi and people who sort of fall into the Asian Welsh moniker is the term that they use, right? So again, you're seeing that these things are popping up in places where the native population are still in the vast, vast, vast majority near ethno-state levels, right? And people think, oh, it's fine. We get to Cardiff is now about 80%. I think some areas of Swansea have dipped started into the 70s. If the current census maps are accurate, which I don't think they are. I think it's a lot worse than what we've been told. I think areas like mine, which last I checked is about 97, somewhere around there, 96, something like that. I don't think that's true. I think it's, a lot less than what we're being told. I don't think the census maps for Wales are accurate in that regard, but they're the best things we have to go off of at the moment.
Let's use the gangs as an example, that there have been cases now of these things operating. I've seen in certain news outlets in Cardiff, in Newport as well, I believe. I've viewed potentially some reports from Swansea. Yeah. I'm like, you don't... And the biggest thing is, the thing that scares me at the moment is that, I don't know if you heard, I talked about it on, I think it was midway through last year it came out, that there was one of these gangs operating in Rhyl. And Rhyl is like...
you putting that up.
And Rhyl is like, I think one of the whitest areas of Wales, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. At least according to the maps anyway, like the actual populations in question, it was like less than 5%. Like, you've got those happening up there.
So I wanted to bring this up on full screen just so you can see it. So again, actually, I don't actually need to bring it up on full screen because my head is just off blocking it. So we're all good. So there you go. As of the time that I made this edit, which was on the 17th of the 1st, Rhyl North was about 94.2%. Rhyl Southwest was about 93%. And Rhyl East was about 97%. So if you say that that's 94, 93, and 97. Obviously, the median average of those numbers would be 94, right? And I think the mean average would probably be somewhere around, 95. It would literally be, 95. So we're talking 94, 95%. And you still had a rape gang that was holding, I can't remember the exact age of the girls, but girls in question, young girls in question, in what amounted to, again, conditions, what would be classed as modern slavery, and obviously then the other things that were, the other charges that were thrown in there as well, of, sexual assault and all of these other disgusting charges, right? In a 94, 95% white area. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this? And that happened all across England as well. It didn't take to get to 80%, 70%, 60%, 50, 40, 30, 20% for these gangs in particular to start popping up. They started popping up from the moment they got here. That's what I wish people would realize. They started popping up from the moment they got here.
For all I know, it could be happening in a community like mine. And what scares me is that how do you find out? How do you be sure that it's not? And I'm just like, that thought, and the wider implications of what the government are trying to do. I've said it before, and I don't lie. It does frequently keep me up at night.
Well, it's the grooming gangs are a perfect example of this, though. Like, do you know, you look at London and Luton where it all started, because that's like our.
This is the quickest way to go from AI beginner to AI.
I definitely should have disabled ads for this period, shouldn't I? Hang on, there we go. Because it's my video, I have the opportunity to. I have the ability to disable ads. I should have disabled ads. I'm sorry. Oh, there
started because that's like our cosmopolitan area, do you know? And they thought that that's just where it was going to stay. The grooming gangs would just be there, but they've spread all the way from the south of England all the way to like up into Scotland, you know? Like they're confirmed as high up as Aberdeen, maybe even higher. So for the government will be disingenuous and say, you know, that it's just going to stick to these major cities. But where do you think that they grab these girls from? They go to the little villages, they go to the little towns, the little secluded areas where people don't really know much better, you know, where people have got these community feelings, and they show them, they try and entice them at a young age when they're vulnerable. You know, they don't, a lot of the, yeah, they grab them from the cities as well, but they go out to these little areas. All you got to do is spend a couple of hours listening to these women who have been interviewed, and they'll tell you that they were grabbed from little shops in their towns, or they were taken out to these towns, you know, like, so it's going on one way or another.
And you see the map. Charlie Peters talked about when Baroness Casey, the Casey report that came out, like detailing the Operation Stovewood, that 64% of cases were Pakistani in Rotherham, I believe it was, and they made up like 3% of the population. It was truly astonishing. But at the same time this was going on, Charlie Peters and GB News were doing this sort of own thing, and they actually created a map, and you should be seeing it on screen if I remember to put it in post now, ladies and gentlemen, the trafficking routes that go.
I'm glad I remembered to put it in post. I couldn't remember if I did. So, yeah, I'll bring this up on screen because I know I'm blocking part of it. That's the map there of trafficking routes that were isolated and discovered by Charlie Peters and GB News in their own separate investigation. Look at this. This one going from Leeds over to Liverpool and then all the way down to Plymouth, right? And this is just England. You have then trafficking routes all the way as far east as Colchester, Southend-on-Sea, Canterbury, going through London. Oh, remember those things we were told? Sadiq Khan saying that, these things weren't happening in London, saying that they weren't happening whilst he was reading the very reports of them happening. Up from down from Stoke-on-Trent to Hereford, through... I can't see really what that one says because it's not the greatest quality image that I extracted from X. I think that's Oxford, is it? Is that Oxford? Because you have St. Albans, you have Milton Keynes, right? All of these. But look at this. Look at this. This is like those maps that you see like in a post-apocalyptic like virus kind of thing where the virus is spreading out through the country. That's what this looks like. This has been going on since the 50s. This has been going on since the 50s. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly check the chat a moment because I got the chat on my phone here. Can you imagine what will go through the minds of our grandkids asking what we were thinking? Yeah, exactly. Well, think if they growing up as a hated minority. Sorry, and I'll bring myself back up on screen a moment. If they grow up as a hated minority, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't blame them for, resenting us. I wouldn't blame them for resenting us. You know what I mean? It's the end of the day. Is it Manic Street Preachers, the song? If you tolerate this, then your children or your grandchildren will be next. I can't remember the name of the song exactly. So minorities having an impact. Yeah, that's the reality, unfortunately. That's the reality, unfortunately. This was going on way back. This was even going on just before Windrush came in, So you had the first sort of documented cases that I've seen going all the way back to the mid-50s, right around the time that Windrush was coming in. Obviously, Windrush bringing in people from like the West Indies and areas like that. So not exactly the exact same areas that are the predominant for the rape gangs, but all of these gangs came to the country illegally. You can't even make the illegal immigration argument with this because all of these rape gangs pretty much came here legally. And just have a look at this map again. Again, how much they concentrate in areas like Manchester and Leeds and how they traffic them from areas all around. And just think along these routes coming through Wales and stuff like that here, right? These are going to be cutting through towns that are very, very similar for mine. I haven't seen any reports yet, right? I haven't seen any reports yet. I don't know that there's not going to be a girl from community like mine that goes missing and ends up in London or Manchester or whatever else, been trafficked via one of these gangs. Because the reality is more and more of these people are being put into communities like ours, and the demographics are rapidly changing. And even people that vehemently disagree with me on politics and political issues see it, even if they won't acknowledge it as a problem. Just check the chat one more time. Connect the straw.
All up and down the country, you know, and I think it's just England in particular that they done in this example. But you see, and they're coming down from all the way up in the north. They go into London, and Sadiq Khan being a prime example, being like, oh, I don't know of any grooming gangs in London, all of this.
And just think, one more thing, sorry, before, you know, there's no land borders, there's no water borders, anything like that. There's no armed borders, anything between Scotland and England and Wales. So you could have you could have a girl that gets trafficked all the way from Dundee or Inverness or Aberdeen, wherever else, and end up in Cardiff. You know what I mean? That's how far people can go. And obviously with other things as well, related to things like drug trade and all of this stuff. So people are not going to be stuck for money for cars and fuel, right? And the government just turns a blind eye.
Stuff, right? And no surprise there, given his, you know, ethnic and religious background, should we say. Yeah. And, you know, you have them coming from all over England and being trafficked to all these different places, even going all the way out to areas in the very far east of England as well, and little trafficking routes out there. It's like nowhere is safe. And I tried to, you know, you feel like the boy who, not the boy who cried wolf, but like Paul Revere at the time of the American colonies during the American Revolutionary War, going around being like, the British are coming, the British are coming. I feel like that's what I'm going around trying to do now. And I'm like, just please, just at least
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I nearly at this time in the interview was going like, I feel like I'm Paul Revere going around the American colonies being like, the Afghanis are coming, the Afghanis are coming, the Pakistanis are coming, the Bangladeshis are coming. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like. You can't but I can't but I'm nearly, you know, laugh when I hear things like that. It's not a joke. It's not a laughing matter. But, you know, like, you know, imagine calling Paul Revere back at the time of the Revolutionary War in America, oh, you're a racist, conspiracy theorist, xenophobic, Paul. You know? But that's what we did. And that's why hundreds of thousands, if not more, young girls were sacrificed on this altar, because people had very good reason to be scared of being called these names, because it would carry a death sentence, not just for you, but for your family, for your loved ones. This is the game that the enemies of the people of Britain have chosen to play. We're not in this battle. We're not in this war, folks. One thing I want you to understand: we're not in this battle and this war, right? There's people who care about the people of Britain with people that are intending to fight fair. We have to understand that. People are not in this fight to fight fair. Streaky Bacon, how are you doing? Manic Street Preacher song was inspired by the Welsh lefties who had fought with the communists in the Spanish Civil War. Great musicians, but lefty wankers. I didn't know that. I appreciate you telling me that. Yeah, I've seen that a lot of people who are pro-communist went to fight in, or went to go out and either volunteer as even like health service professionals in like the Spanish Civil War and stuff like that. Yeah, one of the people that is, I think she was one of the very high up members in the Communist Party, is from the town where I grew up. And I found out that when I'd done a bit of research into her, she's, you know, by unison at a lot of the unions, she's absolutely idolized, right, as you can imagine. And, you know, I done a little bit of research into it, because there's a mural in the town where I grew up to her, and I saw this mural and I was like, there's something off about this. And then I found out she was one of these communists that went out to Spanish Civil to Spain during the Spanish Civil War and stuff like that, as you mentioned. And I'm just thinking, wow, you know, the influence that these people have had on communities, and then they wonder why communities like mine have turned to shitholes. Well, you know, your idols will often tell you that as well. You know what I mean? Your idols will often tell you that. But yeah, I appreciate you giving me that insight, because somebody sent me that song. It's before I ever knew it. It's kind of weird how like songs and stuff like that can take on sometimes different meanings depending on the time that you're in. You know, like certain songs that you listen to at one point in your life will resonate with you differently depending on the kind of life experiences that you have, and even if it's not the meaning of the song. So, like you mentioned here, you had the meaning of the song was to like essentially like pro-communist and stuff like that, and they went out with and fought with the communists in the Spanish Civil War. About how those things, if you didn't know, a lot of the things that they say, for example, they can resonate. They can resonate with nationalists in the modern day. So somebody who has nationalist sentiment, right? One of the nationalist activists that I know that sent me this song. So I think that's kind of weirdly cool how not necessarily the song or the subject matter itself, but how the meaning can change over time. Them commies were evil in Spain, absolutely disgusting acts that they done. I wish I knew more. I think there was I think it was a Zuma historian video that he done a video on the Spanish Civil War, but I was about to watch it and then I don't think I ended up watching it, or I think I might have watched it and I just can't remember part of it. And then his channel got nuked, so I was like, "Oh, that would have been great to watch." I think he done a quite long form video on the Spanish Civil War. But yeah, it's mad learning about all the activists that went out to go over there. You think about what's the investment in there, but again, kind of like your tribe, your tribe and your tribal alignment, the communists going wherever the pro-communist cause is, regardless of like geographical boundaries and stuff like that. We forget how dedicated these people are to their causes.
Listen, at the very least, just listen and don't call me a
And I just wish people on the other side of the spectrum, even just like people who are maybe more like moderately conservative or people that are just politically apathetic, would just be more involved and care more. You know what I mean? Oh, let me have a look. Oh. So funny if Welsh nationalists took this song up. I think it's just one of those things I just don't think people just didn't know. You know what I mean? A lot of things, unless you're in with the know of the political views and stuff like that. Like I listened to Rise Against a lot, and then Rise Against came out with a post last year in support of like the Pride communists and stuff like that, the Pride Marxists, and instantly, because they obviously like their songs are all about like again fighting the power and stuff like that, and all of these kind of things. And then looking back on a lot of their songs now, I look back on a lot of them differently, and I'm like thinking, I quoted their post at the time, I was like, I can't believe you've done this to me. This is a stake in my heart. This is a stake in childhood and depressed adolescent me's heart right now, that you guys have come out in this way, because you guys are not on the side of the anti-authoritarians. You guys are the establishment. Go absolutely fuck yourselves. But yeah, I looked at I listened to a lot of their songs growing up, and you wouldn't know, and some of the lyrics, which I still think about now, they can still resonate with me now in many ways. Like it's like this song Architects, I think it is. They got a song called Architects, and it's like would you rather be the layer of the bricks that seal your fate, or would you rather be the architect of what we might create? It's like, I'll give him credit. That's a great bars. That's a great set of bars right there. But how that meaning changes with how I feel now versus how depressed me, thought about it growing up is obviously very, very different. Is it? Have a look what they done to priests and nuns. You won't believe. Manic Street preachers probably picked the Welsh Health Board. Exactly, mate. They are the establishment. Exactly. Double allocation. But yeah, sad, man. Sad when people come out to try to disappoint you like that. Oh. Next, you're going to tell me that Stereophonics are a bunch of pro-commies, aren't you? Well, you're really going to break my heart, Streaky Bacon, aren't you?
Conspiracy theorist, because this is happening. It is happening and has been going on for nearly, 80 years.
Yeah, I just, that's it. But it's seeing, like, we do, like, you have these conversations and we can get really dark about them, but it's just to realize that so many people are being aware of it now, compared to this time last year. So many more people are aware of it. The fact that we have normies talking about identity politics, we've got normies realizing that illegal migration only makes up 4% of the mass immigration problem. People are normal, the masses are realizing this, so no matter how dark it gets, how how anxious or nervous the situation makes you feel, mate, always see the plus side that we are gonna win because it's for our people. And if it wasn't for our people,
Yeah, you laugh now, Streaky Bake, and the next thing you're going to be telling me on my next stream or whatever is that, oh yeah, I went and researched Dakota by Stereophonics. Turns out the person they were talking about knocking the name up above the sports ground gates was Vladimir Lenin. That's what you're going to tell me next, that I'm just mentally preparing myself for it and emotionally preparing myself for it. I'm being facetious, obviously. I'm only joking, but yeah. The next thing you're gonna tell me is like some other band that like Blur disappointed me as well. So I've gotten over them. Obviously, when the news broke about Ian Watkins and Lost Prophets, that was another stake in the heart of teenage, depressed me. I can't lose any more, guys. I can't lose anymore. That's why I was really happy when I saw that. Apparently, the post got deleted, so I don't know how true it is. But I quote posted it with a gif of James Hetfield from Metallica, because apparently he said basically that, look, America would... Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, and this is not intended to be a quote of him or whatever, but essentially making the statement and making the point that, the things that are going on with the Somalis at the moment is not good and is not good for America. And I was like, yeah, that's a patriot right there. That's a fucking patriot. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it was the ones that were from my adolescence, that were the ones that my mother told me about that she didn't like, that were the ones that were gonna steer me good when I got to this age. You know what I mean? A local boy in a photograph was actually a girl. Well, the Killers, I think the Killers wrote a song about that as well. Somebody told me, that you had a boyfriend that looked like a girlfriend that I had in February of last year. I'm just waiting for the next one. I was waiting for the next one. But I had a nice little moment when I saw that post. I don't know how true it is. But if James Hetfield did say that, well, I give him a massive salute. You're a good patriot, sir.
Then the likeliness of us succeeding might not be guaranteed. But see, because it's for our people and our ancestral homeland, we won't lose.
Mm-hmm. We have nowhere else to go.
We have nowhere else to go, true. Just reading your comment, the older you get, the more you realize what political fuckwits the best musicians are. Well, I get that. I get that impression because, who is it? Oh, it's just skipped my mind. Shit. I can't remember who it was. It skipped my mind. Sorry, guys. It skipped my absolute mind. I'll see if I can remember it. It's a great tune. Mm-hmm. I love indie music, man. There are some lefty twats in there. If I'm not mistaken, because I like the song, where is it? It's by Pearl Jam. Present tense. And I remember because during university, one of the things we had to look at for a sports psychology module, it was related to our sports psychology module, looking at things like resilience and stuff like that, was we could either watch this documentary about wall climbing or whatever it was, or we could watch The Last Dance. I ended up watching The Last Dance. And to be fair, I still like watching that every now and again to this day. But the song was in that. If I'm not mistaken, Pearl Jam are essentially kind of like a little bit in that way inclined, if I'm not mistaken, as well, which is kind of sad, if I'm not mistaken, because they have some great bars as well in that song. Like, it makes much more sense to live life, or it makes much more sense to live in the present tense. Don't obsess over things that you can't control. Essentially, it's kind of like a little bit of a stoic message, which I quite like. But yeah, it really does disappoint me when a lot of these musicians come out and they just turn out to be massive lefty twats. You know what I mean? Obviously, you had Bob Dylan, the whole Charlie Kirk thing and the whole saying, oh, you won your country back, shut the fuck up. Obviously, he's an easy example to point to, and he's obviously not that great of a musician anyway, let's face it. But yeah, so many of them, they just... It's an easy virtue signal, isn't it? That's the biggest thing for them. It's an easy virtue signal. How's it going, my man? How's it going? Mr. Emma Reed 8268, pleasure to have you here. All good, thank you, my man. All good. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, just talking about at the moment, some of the great musicians that turn out to be massive lefty wankers, and it's very, very disappointing.
At the end of the day, do we?
Exactly, brother.
I mean, we have nowhere else to go. That's the thing. Is if we lose this, we lose everything. It's like, I think I think the biggest thing is people just still yet to realize how much the problem of, say, minoritization means. Like, they don't realize that minoritization means that you have no say politically in what happens from this point onwards, because literally you can't mass together enough votes.
The more you stay home, the less you want to
Bloody
leave.
ads. There we are.
Enforce it.
They think that we'll become, and the words they use are this powerful minority, because obviously the Muslims in Britain at the moment are able to use their sway and stuff, to get.
I love how people think, because Josh is making a great point here about how much progress this group has been able to make for themselves in their own interest with how little they make up of the population comparatively. Now, they already outnumber the entire population of Wales, which is very, very disconcerting, because it's not just Welsh people in Wales. Let's just say that. But you have a great point here, I think, because I like this analogy, because this is how I see it anyway, is that people don't really understand what minoritization means. And obviously, you can't expect somebody who isn't of native British descent to understand the danger for the native Brits and to be really, really concerned about it with regards to what minoritization means, especially when the only real recourse that they have to make changes in their society are political ones. And the minute they become a minority, they lose that political representation, and everything will massively spiral exponentially quicker from that point onwards. I liken it to the moment, if you are any of you sci-fi nerds out there, the moment you cross the event horizon on a black hole. I think this is the easiest way to explain it, is that light can't escape the moment you cross the event horizon into a black hole. There's literally no other point that light is going to end up, and there's no other reality that point can get up than in the middle of the black hole in the singularity. So that's basically what's going to happen, and that singularity in this example represents pretty much the extinction of the native British people. But the other thing is, obviously, as you get closer and closer to the singularity, you get pulled exponentially quicker, and as a result, then all of the problems which will come the minute you cross that singularity will come exponentially faster, because, well, it'll be in their interest to. It'll be in the interest of these people too, at the end of the day. It's terrifying how successful they become proves it's controlled. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you see that. That's why I can't stand politicians nowadays that bemoan the treatment that they've gotten from this community, which they directly enabled. Kate Holland is a great example. She was a Labour council leader in Blackburn and a Labour MP for Blackburn for about 9 years, if I'm not mistaken. Lost her seat to Adnan Hussein in the most recent general election. And then in the recent interview, went on and bemoaned the treatment that she got. She was told that she would be beheaded, that she worshipped a false god. All these heinous things, which is no justification for, right? But she presided over the demographic and religious changes. She presided over the 10 years from 2011 to 2021. Now, she didn't become an MP until 2015, if I'm not mistaken, but she was Labour council leader for multiple terms before that, from I think 2004 to 2007, and then 2010 to 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And during that time, you had a percentage change of Muslims up nearly 9%, and a massive percentage change in terms of like your Pakistanis and your Bangladeshis and your Indians that were coming in. So she presided over the very changes that then made this all the more likely. And then when they turned on her, because they would have had no respect for her in the first place, obviously they were just biding their time. She was like, oh my God, they said that I was going to be beheaded. They said that I was going to have all this heinous shit happen to me. But like, what was happening to your constituents when you were priding diversity and you were saying you're going to improve ethnic minoritization in British politics? Ethnic minority representation in British politics. She literally paved the way for her own destruction. It was literally, the Ouroboros of the snake eating itself. It was literally that. And then what are we expected? I do feel sorry for her to an extent that she shouldn't have been subject to that heinous abuse, right? But she paved the way for it. And I feel far more sympathy for her constituents that would have suffered at the hands of it, at the demographic changes that occurred. You had, I think, overall during the 20 years from about 2004 to about 2024, 2001 to about 2021. I can't remember the exact time frame I analysed. But you had significant double-figure changes, percentage changes in these populations of white going down, non-white going up, and obviously exponentially increases in Muslim. So what am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? You paved the way for our, destruction, And then the minute it comes for you, we're supposed to feel sorry for you and have this stuff. Well, I'm like, I have a very, very limited degree of sympathy because you caused your constituents to suffer long before you did. You know what I mean? The only object that can travel through the black hole is That made me laugh. That made me laugh. I'll probably see at the event horizon. Yeah, stupid cow, what she deserved at our expense. Exactly. Blackpool is fucking horrible. I stayed there a few years ago for a PA conference. So she licked their boots and then got tucked up by the nonsense. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Emma Reed. She licked their boots. She followed the Tony Blair line and the Gordon Brown line, right, the New Labour line at the time, and rubbing the right's nose in diversity, waging war on the forces of conservatism, and then got shocked when those forces came for herself. I only have a very limited degree of sympathy for those kinds of things. Yep. Think about it, they're the biggest providers of abortion and stuff like that, right? Eventually they're going to get to the point where their whole civilization completely dies out. All of their people die out because they don't reproduce anymore. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's exactly right, as you said, Emma. She licked their boots and then got tucked up by their nonsense. Because, they vote in their own interests. Funny how that works. Sharon Homeland Party took so many from PA Scotland. Oh, they got both factions up there, have they? I didn't realize they had both factions up there, because I didn't realize that... or are they sort of like competing factions, or are they sort of working together? You think that those things would be working together. Inquisitor, how you doing, man? How you doing? I need to know if there's a way that I can contact you. I need to know if there's a way that I can contact you. So if there's any social medias that you have in which I can send you a DM on. I'm also on Instagram. I know you said you didn't have X. I need to send you a DM about something. So yeah, if there's any way that I can contact you, or if there's an email address that you have, bear with me 2 seconds. And by the way, guys, this is something which you guys can use as well. This is public on my YouTube profile. I'm going to put it in both chats. If you have anything that you want to bring forward about things that you see or whatever, and you want me to, report on the show or anything like that, then please use my email, which will be put in the chat now as well. If you have an email, Inquisitor, send me an email. I need you to send me an email about something. It could just be something simple. Just as long as I've got your email, I want to send you something. PA Scotland were the biggest region of PA, and lots left to follow. Kenny Smith. Fair. Because Mark Collette's still active, isn't he? That's the thing. I don't know if he was in the Scotland region, but no, Mark Collette's still active. He done a podcast with somebody recently, which I want to cover at some point, because I was shocked. For somebody who's not that familiar with Mark Collette in particular, I was shocked by how well his presentation was and how articulate he was and how educated that he was in coming across. And he just explained everything as if he was explaining it to a child, you know what I mean? Not patronizing the interviewer in any way, but just so cleanly and concisely. And I was like, could not really find anything wrong with it. You know what I mean? Time boys, because I'm Welsh and too ready to fight for my children's future. It's on the bus today. It's getting scary out. The boys felt like I was in Lagos instead of Gosaina, and it's horrendous, man. I know. I think at the moment I don't, wouldn't be in our best interest to go and do anything rash. Momentum is building. Let's just say that momentum is building, and people understand, more and more people are waking up and understanding every single day the real survival, battle that we're in. And just keep buying the time. Make sure that, your loved ones and yourself are protected and aware of what's going on. But yeah, big changes will be coming. I'm confident that I can't say anything specific because obviously I'm not involved in it, but there's going to be more and more representation for these things going forward, because more and more people are realizing, and I might have some things that I can report on in the future as well. I can't say anything too much at the moment. The Overton window is massively shifting. The battlefield of ideas, so to speak, is being won in a massively positive direction, in my opinion. So we got a lot of things to look forward to. And a lot of things to be positive about. And just don't do. I think there's a good quote from my conversation with James Monroe just popped into my head, because I know a lot of the other nationalists, they sort of don't hold Kenny Smith in high regard. I don't know him personally, obviously, so I can't say anything about him. But James Monroe said, you can't do any. Oh, it might have been Josh. I can't remember which one it was. You can't do any good for your people inside of a jail cell. So again, it's about keeping control of emotion a lot of the time, and just understanding that there is going to be light at the end of this tunnel, and we're going to prevail. Put it that way. I wish I had more concrete things to say, but obviously I'm just a small voice in the valleys and stuff like that. Patriotic Alternative is still active. Big protest in Warwick soon. I know there's a good couple of people going down for it. I was hoping to be able to go down for it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to go down for it. Hopefully I will. I was going to hopefully go down for the one in Roos on the 30th, but I don't think it is a bit of up in the arms, whether it's going ahead at the moment. The tragedy living in Frankveilig. Yeah, it's coming for all of us, but the thing is, what you realize is the more and more there's people that you got to remember, the people who don't say anything, the people who aren't even active on social media, they don't say anything, but they are thinking it. And when the call comes, it's a bit like all of the people that when Trump, I know he's said some things at the moment about, NATO and British forces again, but when he massively ramped up ICE and you saw how many just regular patriotic Americans flocked towards ICE, the minute like your Rupert Lowe or whoever it is opens up the ICE task force, if you will, in the UK, right? Make no mistake, you will have people chomping at the bit. There's people chomping at the bit to do it now already, but you'll have people chomping at the bit to do it. I can promise you that. So we gotta stay positive. We got reasons to stay positive, and just always remain hopeful. You've always got to remain hopeful. Mark's a superb debater. He once debated 5 J's and won the debate with them. He was brilliant. I saw part of his debate with Destiny. One of the debates he had with Destiny. I didn't even know he had a debate with Destiny, but. He sort of went, talking about the native Brits. He's like, Desi, what do you mean by indigenous Brit? And it's like, he just explained it. And it's like, well, what do you mean by indigenous Brit? And I'm just like, well, that's just Destiny all over. Yeah. Migration is inevitable. Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is, because at this point, because the government is committing a mass act of treason, it's going to be that, or people end up getting taken over and all of their rights and freedoms get taken away, and then they get replaced on top of it. So people will wake up, and people are waking up. People are seeing through the school system, see regards to a lot of things that have tipped parents off is the sex ed, which is why my conversation with Catherine Watkins, is really, really important for that. But yes, there's reasons to stay positive. There's reasons to stay positive. Don't be going blackpilling. There's reasons to stay positive. I'm saying, what a sad low life twat, not fit to lace Mark's boots. I know. Exactly. I join ICE UK in a second. Absolutely. And make no mistake, you're saying that in my chat right now. Emma Reed, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right there as well. You're saying that in my chat right now. There's many people out there, like we have the danger of like an imam saying something, or like the rabbi, the president of the European Conference of Rabbis in Davos recently saying about the old Europeans, right? What matters not so much is that person saying it. It does matter, obviously. That's why Steve Laws and the other figures in the nationalist movement that have been really the vanguard for it are so important. But it's then the people that follow them. You know what I mean? So it's like the people that follow that rabbi, it's the people that follow that imam. Make no mistake, you have so many people in this country that are silently nodding their head and being like, I would as well. Make no mistake about it. In newspapers, there's a far-right hate group, so it's a family-friendly indigenous initiative. One thing that shocked me about Patriotic Alternative, I believe Mark set up an organization which was basically, again, doing the same thing that ethnic minority groups do, but just for white people. And then he was met with all kinds of threats of legal action and police action and all of these things, right? It's absolutely disgusting. People will say that we don't live in a two-tiered anti-white society. It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Inquisitor, make sure you send me an email to that, just so I've got your email, because I've got something to send you is all. But yeah, we'll quickly finish this video off now.
Their people voted in. But see, if they become the majority, they will not let us have any power as a minority. Do you know, that is just totally bonkers to think that we're going to be some sort of controlling minority. And that is just never going to happen when you have a conquering ideology coming in and working its way through.
Yeah, it's completely contrary to their worldview.
Yeah.
I mean, you have things like the jizya. They literally like either convert, die, or pay us money and acknowledge your second-class status. You scum, you infidel scum. That's literally what it is. I'm like, and.
The powerful British minority, folks, the powerful British minority that many think that we are going to be. And you see now when a lot of foreigners that you see now are pretending that the minoritization of the British aren't going to be a problem, that obviously tells you that the intentions that are going to come afterwards, right? You think that they're going to let us have a lick of power, right? You see it with the Yazidis. You saw what ISIS did with the Yazidis, right? There was no power for the Yazidis, right? And you saw what happened to their women. I did a members video on that. A lot of atrocities happened with regards to that. It was absolutely disgusting. I'd love to see a debate with Mark Collette and Steve Laws versus Owen Jones and Ash Sarkar. I don't think they'd ever agree to that. I don't think Owen Jones and Ash Sarkar would ever agree to that. Whoever said it was, I can't remember who said it. It was, where is it? I'm just looking for the comment. Yeah, you, Streaky Bacon. Mark is a superb debater. Certainly seems that way. But so it just seems as though he's just tremendously knowledgeable. And he was just saying things. He was just extremely calm. You know what I mean? He wasn't, getting up in arms about anything. Obviously, the podcast that I watched, it wasn't a debate with the interview or anything like that. So it was more of a friendly conversation. But it's like you see when somebody clearly quite knows a lot what they are talking about, and you see the tactics that people got to use to try and discredit them there. And I covered them a little bit in the debate thing with the Laura Towler versus Ricky Doolan, the tactics that he had to try and employ to try and discredit their label, doing all the standard lefty stuff almost, which is why, again, this kind of like quote unquote civic nationalist position is kind of just like the the liberal position, just in a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. A Jewish conspiracy. Jewish conspiracies. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Just Jew it. Just get straight in. Just Jew it. That's probably going to get the video demonetized or taken down, but I don't care. It's a fun. See, loads of debates with Mark, and though I am biased, I have to say he's won every debate. And the biggest thing is as well, like what I've noticed with a lot more people on the right is that they seem to care a lot more about the performances with these kinds of things. I think it's because they know how much their backs are up against the wall. And they're actually like more okay with people being critical, provided they know that it's constructive, right? So, when I was trying to go through the sort of conversations that Steve Laws was having with Liam Tufts and Andrew Gold, it was kind of like, not doing it. If there was ever a point where I thought Steve could have potentially maybe done better or answered a question better from my perspective or whatever. Now, obviously, Steve has a lot more life experience and a lot more experience in nationalist politics than me, obviously. I'm just looking at this as an observer. And obviously, it's very easy to do that when you're coming from the outside in. It's very easy to get flustered when you're in that seat, when you know the cameras are rolling, when you know that if you trip up or if you say something you don't mean to, it's going to get clipped, it's going to get all of these things, right? So there's all of those different things. But I think most people will kind of welcome that because they actually want to put their best foot forward because they realize that's what they need. It's not just a case of they want to put the best foot forward because obviously they want to represent themselves the best, but they need to because of how much is at stake, I think. If only I could clip things, I would have so much fun. I think you will. I think you will be able to clip the VOD afterwards. So, I got a feeling I just memed myself, but oh well. You only live once and you'll be judged by the standards of your time. So, I'm okay with it. Steve has a heart. Oh, just like this. Steve has a heart. You feel his passion regardless. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Absolutely. So one thing you can certainly feel. That's why I think I said earlier on in the episode before you guys joined is that the one thing you can see is he's certainly honest. And I think that's why you couldn't say that the things that Steve says, in my opinion, and the flack that he's gotten and the shit that he's gotten from all sides of the political spectrum and not believe it. Nobody would lie to put themselves in that position. I don't think. You know what I mean? He's a person that really does care. Really does care and sees the direction where it's going. And was it the memes will continue until morale improves. Good. I hope that it helps. But yeah, you can absolutely feel that. No, so you feel that. The one thing you cannot say is he doesn't have a heart for England and the English people, at a time where it does seem that many, including many English people and British people as a whole, obviously, because, you know, you have many Welsh people that go on about the English being colonizers and all of this other stuff, right? So, you know, at a time when it does seem that the only people that are going to have a heart for the native people of Britain and for the native European peoples are those native Europeans themselves. That's why true change can only ever really come from those people, and true movements can only ever really come from those people. That's why you can put as many foreign Muslim candidates as mayor of London or mayoress of London that you want. They'll never, ever resonate with the British people, because they're going to be the embodiment of what the British people are sick and tired of. They want one of their own in that position to lead them. They're tired of being led by either foreigners or foreign interests. Right, a native person operating in the interest of the native people is really the only thing that's going to resonate with a lot of people at this point. You guys think of Danny Tomo and Raise the Colors? I see a lot of different points on him. So I see a lot of people raising different points about his history. I don't know enough about him to make any judgments on that. I only see what I see on X, obviously. I will say some of the stuff that he seems to have uncovered over in Dover has been quite useful. I've reported on some parts of it. He was over there speaking with Myra, saying that, you know, there's no gangs here. They're all NGOs. He uncovered some important paperwork. I think I covered on the podcast a little while ago, explaining how they can use their cards, all of this stuff. That stuff seems to be pretty good, in fairness. But motivations and stuff like that, I don't know. I see many people saying very, very different things. See James Goddard, for example, saying obviously very, very negative things. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe there's more than meets the eye. So thinking that if somebody does something useful or covers something useful, I think it may be good to shine a light on that and maybe, you know, highlight that, because it's important information. And then obviously trying to keep that in mind with who the character is, but obviously I don't know him well enough to make judgments on the character. So I made a comment saying kind of a citizens' militia along the coast turning back the boats, like Dunkirk, but in reverse. Yeah, essentially. And the really sad thing is, I think one of the guys over there at the moment, isn't he like 19? He was the guy sat in the back of the car as the migrant. I'm not sure if you can hear my dog going on the background. She's going to be squeaking her toy now, probably. They had the migrant had the knife and tried to bloody stab the window of the car. And this kid's like 19. You know what I mean? Angloid, I think he goes by on X. Angloid Zero, I think his name is. Just seems like just a regular English kid. I don't want to say kid because it sounds patronizing, but anybody that's like even just a day younger than me, I call kid. And I do so because I was the youngest in my year in school, so I never got the chance to do it to anybody. And I was always the one that was always viewed as the youngest and the baby of the class. So, sorry, if you're even so much as 1 second younger than me, you're kid, okay? But it just seems like a regular patriotic kid. And, you know, he's over there essentially, you know, kind of putting his life on the line with a lot of these people, these doctors and surgeons that we're told are coming over. And the next thing you know, there's a Bowie knife up by the window. It's absolutely awful. James Goddard is sound. Yeah, history of Civnat, Tommy Rabbitstein grifting. Hope he is doing genuinely good stuff. But that's what you hope. Yeah, that's what you hope. And ultimately, that's all you can really do, unless you really, really know somebody personally. And then again, you'd be surprised how sometimes, no matter how well you think you know somebody personally, they can always obviously come up and surprise you. You really, really hope that they are doing good work and are coming at it with good motivations and stuff like that, obviously. But obviously, it's until the backs are against the wall, until the chips are down, you never really know, do you? That's the thing. I would say it does seem some of the stuff that he's been doing has been very interesting and very useful. But again, just take that information, talk about it as it is relevant to further in the cause and whatever. And that's it. You don't really need to go into who the person is so much, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. You just highlight the information. This is what has been uncovered. This is why it's important, and then move on to the next thing. You know, not looked into Danny too much, but I don't know if I care at this point. Greater than 20 is basically a teen, which is a type of child. Change my mind. Or less than 20. Sorry, less than 20. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm okay with that because I just realized I'm closer to 30 than I am to 20 now. So yeah. But yeah, I see a lot of things for James Goddard. He seems to be a decent guy. One thing that he was, I don't know if, because he took it out of his bio, I think, because he said he was, at least as far as I'm aware, does he still claim to be an Orthodox Christian? Because I've realized that it does seem, when I see people like Zuma Historian, for example, claims to be, Catholic, for example, and then the Pope is coming essentially saying that, he comes up with obviously a lot of what people would say is a lot of the hardline rhetoric, right, with regards to anti-immigration and what people will classify as racism and all of these other labels. And then he claims to be Catholic, and the Pope is like one of the most, especially Pope Francis and seemingly Pope Leo kind of echoing that line as well, saying that Christ would empathize more with the quote-unquote asylum seekers and immigrants and all of this stuff. So again, I'm wondering, my question would just be, how do you sort of square this circle, so to speak, as somebody that is very ignorant, obviously, and is just trying to learn. But then James Goddard, I think, was providing a good perspective, being Orthodox. I see a lot of Orthodox priests and commentators being a lot more, for lack of a better term, based. And in fact, I'm going to give you guys an example if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, I know I'm just going to go off on a little bit of a tangent at the moment. I'm going to show you this. This was, because I really like this GIF. I see Steve and Zuma, a lot of the other guys using it as well. It's like this kind of, creature thing that has the mug and it's like dropping it. I want to see if I can just find it at the moment with the post in question. Kind of looks like a hippo with like a a check shirt on. And this is what I'm talking about, right? So this is an account on X, and it's a massive thread, and talking about Russian Secret Service labels Ecumenical Patriarch Constantinople Antichrist in scathing attack, right? This is from an outlet known as Kathy Marini English edition. It's a daily newspaper published in Athens, and what seems to be a proto-presbyter of the ecumenical throne by the name of Father Evagoras tagged a bunch of people in it whom I don't know who they are, but then said, why have they not said anything about this? What about the UOJ of America, which is the Union of Orthodox Journalists of America? So it seems to be an Orthodox priest in this instance. Do we not think that a government calling the ecumenical patriarch the Antichrist is newsworthy? They show us who they are through their actions. And then another Orthodox priest, if I'm not mistaken, by the name of Father John Whitefoot. So I know your chat's coming in. I will get back to him in a moment. Said the UOJ has already written on the topic, but since the U.S. government does not fund or arm Russia, it would be of little use to to lobby the U.S. government on the topic. But unkind words is not the same as jailing bishops, drafting bishops, priests, and monks and sending them to the front, stealing and closing churches, or beating up old ladies for going to the church. This is what the Ukrainian government is doing, however, with the blessing and complicity of the Patriarch Bartholomew. So then, this is a very respectful discussion. I want to point that out, and I'm going to bring it up on screen in a moment. It says, it's shocking they won't denounce, Father John, it's shocking that you won't denounce the words of the SVR against your ecumenical patriarch and our Orthodox family. Archbishop, I don't know how to pronounce his name, did the right thing when they accused you guys of being agents. He rejected this behavior. He said, given the actions of the ecumenical patriarch in Ukraine, criticisms of him are hard to denounce. He has not uttered a peep about the persecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and so he is responsible for it. This is antichrist-like behavior. And then the same person who posted it initially said, calling the ecumenical patriarch the Antichrist is hard to denounce, ? Want to be super clear here. Father John Whitefoot, are you agreeing that the ecumenical patriarch is the Antichrist? He said, no, he's not the Antichrist because he is merely engaged in the Antichrist-like behavior at the behest of the US State Department. The Antichrist will be the one calling the shots, not a mere step and fetch it for other powers. And then the guy, this is where, right, this is just completely, for lack of a better term, based. The guy says, wow, I'm literally speechless. And Father John Whitefoot goes, hopefully you will remain so. Hopefully you will remain so. Just completely and utterly uncompromising and scathing. And then that's when I responded, just like, because I'm not used to Christian religious figures talking like this. I responded with this. And he actually liked it and followed me as a result of it, which I thought was quite cool. But I was just like, I can't believe this. I absolutely can't believe this. So it seems as though there's a massive difference between like the Orthodox perspective versus the Catholic and the but you know, whatever other congregations of Christianity that you want to go through, right? Seems there's massive differences, and that's why I think it'd be great to talk to about the Orthodox perspective, if he is still Orthodox, that is, because things are a lot different, and they seem to be supporting more of like the indigenous rights and stuff like that. Just getting back to the chat now, but yeah, apologies about that, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to go through that because I thought it was absolutely, you know, hilarious. I really think by the time that things get real, really real, we'll still have enough to win in the end. I think so. Titanic was Coast Guards would have dragged the fucker back to shore. I think you're right. Maybe not at that time, maybe not in 1912, but certainly today. Certainly the Coast Guard of today. Get messy, but there's no way around that will actually get replaced. That it was a hump. Yep. We'll go the way that Yugoslavia thought this year's for balkanization is how I see it going. Certain people won't be able to help themselves, so the problems will become too obvious to ignore, and we'll finally get the action we need to fix it. The Orthodox Church is not paused like most of the Anglicans, so they won't be flying rainbow flags. Yeah, exactly. Basically pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. We're just waiting for the crowd to catch up. Absolutely. But the welfare system will break down, and that's when the fireworks will start. Yeah, you take away the benefits. You'll go read my book. It's about saving the European race. Link in the chat. But yeah, the Orthodox guys do seem to be a lot more hardcore and uncompromising, which is good to see, obviously, because that's the one thing that I think has really alienated a lot of people with regards to the church who actually want to seem to get involved in. They seem to be a lot very, for lack of a better term, pro-replacement. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Where am I going to go? Is if you guys are saying we need to make peace with the same colonizing forces that have taken over and resulted in absolutely, you know, disgusting atrocities against the, you know, young girls in the name of religion and of racial supremacy, there's no making peace with that. There's no living alongside that. The Jewish conspiracy, the Titanic going down, the three bankers who could stop the Federal Reserve being created. Dun, dun, dun. I don't think anything is coincidental at this point. You know what I mean? Does sound sus. Does sound very, very sus.
You already have a tiny, like, for lack of a better term, microcosm of what was going on all the way through the 50s and stuff like that. I'm like, so hang on, you think all of a sudden things are going to get better? The more and more, the less people we make up in the country we become, and the less power we have in that regard, you think things are going to get better?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
It's completely inverted. And I always compare it to like because I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd.
That this is where I get into the black hole analogy, but this is where I get into it, where people are like, you know, we already go, the state of minoritization is a problem. What is the solution? More minoritization. It's like, no. It's like the exact opposite, but this is how people think. This is the almost Pavlovian conditioning that people have gotten themselves, you know, into the thought process, right? Drilled into them through the school system, right? The minute they hear somebody say diversity is not our strength, or multiculturalism is not a good thing, or Islam is a religion of war, or whatever other thing, which they've been conditioned to react with a almost, you know, murderous, at least in terms of character assassination level of rage. It's like, you know, almost like, again, Pavlov's dog, you know what I mean? And that kind of conditioning, which is present throughout the school system as well. You've got to listen to my conversation with Catherine Watkins. If you don't, you get it in the member section. It'll be coming out next week, so stay tuned. But, yeah, apparently a survivor or two heard of a massive explosion or an iceberg. Yep, I said. Sorry, I just seen the way you... I like that little play on words joke you done there, Streaky Bacon. I like that little play on words joke you done there. Kind of reminds me about the meme of Sigourney Weaver in Alien, and where the alien comes up to the side and as part of its face poking from the side of the screen, and somebody made it and it was just a nose. I laughed. Last time I talked to Andy about this IRL, the subject. About this subject from the POV of Welsh versus English. Yeah, exactly. You're seeing this now. I'd be like, the last thing we need to be worrying about now is the quote-unquote English colonizers, when, you know, Llyn Osmedi, for example, is talking about bringing tens of millions of Afghan women here, which would be enough to ethnically cleanse Wales alone several times over. About 7 times, if I'm not mistaken. Not English, but born in Wales, full-blown European. Hey, what's your book? Feel free to put the name of it or link it or whatever. Please do. Please do. It's About Time by Benjamin C.H. Thomas on Kindle. I'll have a look. But yeah, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
As well, like a black hole, the event horizon on a black hole is like the minute you cross it, it's like you got no chance of escaping from that point onwards. It's like light can't escape from that point onwards. And it's like at that point you forfeit your ability to change things democratically, which is for those who don't want to have the question around demographics and all of that kind of stuff, you know, again, the more Civnat kind of position, it's like you are going to come up against it at some point, because humans are inherently tribal. So you are going to have to confront that at some point. And if you don't think that it's going to be a bad thing when the British, well, I don't want to say when, because it's not a certainty, right? Obviously things will be, you know, rectified, should we say. But, you know, if that was to happen, then pretending that it's not going to have really, you know, bad consequences. Look at any other minority that really, throughout history, they haven't exactly gone very well.
No,
and this is the only land that we have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valley's X page.
And there we are. So that's the end of that clip. So that was just one of the clips that came from the podcast. That was about 20 minutes long. So, yeah, appreciate you guys staying tuned with that with me. There's a couple of other shorts and little clips on the podcast as well. The full podcast is out obviously now already as well. So whether you are on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, free member of Patreon, Locals, or whatever, whether you do, guys, whether you can maybe do it, if you want to do me a little bit of a favor, is some of the zones, like Sleep Well, Emma Reed, pleasure to have you along as always. Thank you ever so much. If you go over to either Patreon or Locals, you don't actually need to pay to sign up into the free area. But the biggest thing with Locals is that you need to hit a certain amount of followers before you can get access to different memory capacities to upload more content. So right now I'm kind of stuck. I think it's like 5 gigabytes every month on Locals. So there's a couple of links in the chat as well to take you to the Locals page. But one thing you can do is quite often some, you know, lots of free content that's put in there as well. Some of the stuff that's supporter only, but there's a lot of free content in there as well. Only stuff that you see on YouTube and stuff like that. But if you guys go over there and follow me on there as well, I think once you get to a certain follow account, it actually allows you to upload videos in higher quality and also affords you more memory space to upload every videos per month and allows you to do more live streaming and stuff like that. So you just going over and following in the free zone would be a massive help. I'm not asking for, you know, to go over and subscribe, stuff like that, you know, anything like that. But if you go over and join the free zone as well, just become a free follower and whatever, it can be a massive help as well. So I greatly appreciate that. But stay tuned, because there'll be some promotions coming out as well. If you guys want to get access to my conversation with Catherine Watkins early and take advantage of 1 month free in the Patreon and Locals areas to get all of the members perks as well as access to all of the exclusive members content, then stay tuned. There'll be some promotions dropping in the next day or two. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all for being here. I do need to go now because I need to quickly call my girlfriend back. So I will quickly jump off now. But I appreciate you tuning in for this little chill stream. There will be another stream tomorrow night. So tomorrow night plan is for videos Tom Rousel done, the Celts and Druids, and also potentially the origins of weed. We'll go through all of those. And yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in with me today. Greatly appreciate you all for being here as always. Hope you guys have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Make sure you go to bed tonight understanding that this will be one, and British will be great. Britain will be great. Once again, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are, guys. Make sure you stay tuned for the conversation with Catherine Watkins, and make sure you check out the conversation in full with Josh Fernie, which is available on all the outlets now. And thank you very much, as always. And you take care of yourself.